Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Living in Fullness podcast. Today, I am seated with a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, a podcaster, a graduate of psychology, a content creator. What are you not? Boledi. You are in for a treat. Welcome to the Living in Fullness podcast, where you will get relatable, authentic, entertaining, and thought-provoking content. I am your host, Naki. Here, we believe everyone has a story and every story has a purpose. It's when you own your story, your voice, and your journey that it's able to impact those around you. Our journeys and life experiences are not a coincidence. Join us on our journey to living their purpose on purpose by staying glued to learn more from real life experiences. I am happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Wow, it's finally happening after
Finally.
So long, right?
We've been trying to make this happen, and I'm very sure it's going to be an amazing episode. So if you do like it, please like, share, comment, subscribe, because I am very sure we're going to have a good time.
I hope so. The pressure. Yeah. But I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to have you here. I can't wait. All right. So before we start, we have like an icebreaker game. Are you ready?
I am ready.
So this or that, you have to pick one.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay. You ready? Mm-hmm. Are you a quality time or words of affirmation person?
Can I be both?
You have to choose one.
Okay.
You know why I actually picked both? Because they're like my top love languages, and I was like, how do I ever pick
They are my top. But I think, you know what? If we spend quality time, you're bound to just be able to affirm me there. So I'm going to choose the quality time. Yes, I'm more a quality time person.
You and I both. Okay, would you rather read a book or watch TV?
I'd rather read a book, because I was gonna be philosophical and say if I'm watching like something that is informative, but I'm more a reader than a TV person.
That's good. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't watch TV, but I watch videos on my phone. Mm-hmm. Reading books, I used to do it like back then. Now I have lost.
It's not easy. I mean, we've got commitments and there's so much happening. Literally every day there are things that need to be done. But I think when you just set time, maybe when you go to bed and you're just okay, I'm gonna go 30 minutes earlier and then
read a book.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, would you rather tell a funny story or laugh at a funny story?
I think I'd rather laugh at a funny story. My husband says I'm not funny at all. He's like, you are not funny. You don't even laugh to our jokes. Yeah. I think I'd rather laugh at a funny story.
Okay. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Ooh, that's good. Are you a morning person?
I am not a morning person. I am a night owl.
Me too. Yeah, so I'd rather do sunset because sunrise I never make it.
Yeah, no. But also, for me, around the sunrise, I'm trying to get ahead of my day in my head already. So I don't think I'm present around that time of the day.
I hear you. Okay, the last one. Would you rather text or call someone?
I would rather text.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm one of those people let's have an appointment for a call, because
Really?
Yeah, because the thing about being an introvert is that sometimes you're just not in that space.
Yeah, you're not there.
And then when someone calls you and you feel off, so
I
get anxiety from calls, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, just text, and then I can say, oh, let's do the call around this time.
So how do you feel about voice notes? Because for me, texting these days I can't. I'll read it in a meeting and then I'll forget to respond. And so I'd rather call, or if I'm trying to put a point across, I'd rather I call you or voice note you so you can hear my tone.
I get you. I'm good with a voice note, because then I can listen to it and I don't have to think about responding. Because the thing with a call is now I need to have an answer now.
Right now.
Yeah.
No, but that's something I was saying to someone, that we don't always have to respond then. We have to not be reactive people.
Like,
that is so true. That is
respond.
so true. That is why I prefer text, because then I can see it and mind
You're
it,
responsive.
and then I can just text later and say, oh, I didn't see it.
And now I know.
Okay, no.
Now I know.
No, yeah, but yeah, I think when you're an anxious person in general, it's much easier because then you can pace yourself. Because also, I don't like blue ticking people. Yeah. So if I see your message, I can just be like, oh, okay.
I see it's there.
Yeah, I see it's there. I'm going to respond when I can.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So you've accomplished a lot. You've done well. You are...
I'm getting there.
What do you call them? Like mothers that are entrepreneurs that are doing a lot of things. I want to know, how did you grow up? Did you see yourself here? Is this what you wanted to do?
I won't lie. I've always, sometimes I stop and I'm like, this is kind of what I envisioned as a kid. Because, funny story, I wasn't actually like your normal kid. I was telling my husband the other day that, look at me getting into things already. So when I was young, my brother and I lived together because my parents had to work like a little bit far, like almost like an hour away. So what would happen was he was in his like teenage years. Yeah. And I was like around 10. So we would play, like, you know, playing houses. But obviously, like, things happen there sometimes and kids get a little bit like overexposed to things. Yeah. And so one of the days when we were playing there, this kid said, hi, listen, like, I want to touch you. And I was just like, this is so uncomfortable. I don't want to do this. And he literally was like, you either let me touch you or you never ever play with us.
What age was that?
I think that was around 10 years.
10?
And I was just like, bye. Because I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. So the following weekend when my dad came home, I said to him, listen, we didn't have electricity around the area. Yeah. I was like, listen, can you please buy a battery? There were these batteries that you could like use solar to like connect to the TV. I don't know how that worked, but yeah. He bought the TV, and literally from that age onwards, I would come back from school, get home, like I would polish the stoop outside. I think you can relate, you know, yeah, because we are around the same age. Yeah. I'd polish the stoop outside, do my homework, wash my socks, and then I'd literally sit there and watch Oprah from the age of 10. That is what I was doing as a,
You were born for this, girl.
I was just like, that was my life. But also I was doing it because I was trying to protect myself, because I felt like the streets were just not safe.
For you. They were not safe.
They were just not safe.
They've never been.
Yeah.
So actually, like, moving from that, you are an advocate for holistic wellness.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Thank you. It's very important.
It is, but it's so broad, right? So for some people, it's like their mental health, their physical being, their financial wellness, emotional, whatever it is. What is it like for you from a practical sense?
I think from a practical sense, it's just like you said, your holistic well-being. You can have you can't be fit, or you can't be going to gym and not be eating well. But also you can wanna have like your well-being in one area of your life, but then have the other area of your life falling apart. So
you want to spread it, balance.
Yes, there must be a balance. If you're gonna be, because the thing about things like discipline, right? If you are disciplined in one area of your life, it's bound to like bleed into the other areas of your life.
That's true.
So even with the lack of discipline, it's gonna be the same thing. If you're gonna not be disciplined in one area of your life, it's kind of going to like show in the other areas. Yeah, and I mean, I saw that with gym. A few years ago, I think maybe 5-6 years ago, I joined gym, and I was like, in a place where I literally went for discipline, because I felt like at the time I lacked a lot of discipline, and I was like, I want to just be able to have discipline, say this is what I'm gonna do tomorrow, and do it. And literally it was like the time that I spent in that gym, I got a trainer, and I think we trained together for like 3 months only. I hated him so much when I went there. But after 3 months, because I couldn't go, I think I moved, there was so much happening. Guess what? His voice literally lived in my head, and I started to see that bleed onto like other areas of my life. And it's just like, oh wow.
But 3 months is good, because they say it takes 21 days to build a habit. So I'm sure by then you were like into fitness.
Yeah, but you know what? At the time, I was like, "Oh, I really don't like this. I don't." But then when I stopped and I wasn't with this person, which goes to like that saying about, you know, the kind of people you associate with, because he would push me so much.
Yeah.
I started feeling like if I could do this in other areas of my life, I could really
be well accomplished in all areas of my life. But you know, I think also we cannot have everything at the same time in the same season.
That is so true.
I think there's certain seasons where your financial well-being needs to be taken care of more than maybe your. I never compromise mental well-being.
Wow, I want to
never.
Because it gets rough sometimes.
It does, but I think because I've had so much experience with my mental well-being not being taken care of, and I never knew what it is then, because it's only now that mental health is becoming a big thing. Because growing up, I used to think kids don't get stressed. At least that's what I used to get from my mom. Like, what's stressing you? You're a kid. Nothing happens in your life. And I think I always used to think kids don't get stressed. So even when I'm working in a toxic environment, I'm like, I need to work hard. You know, that's why I'm here, to work. But now I say to myself, I am not compromising on my mental health. I can compromise anything but my mental state.
That is good. Yeah, that is so good. And I mean, you obviously learned that by getting banned a few times.
Yes.
But yeah, I wish I could get there. Like I think my level of this. Yeah, because you know what happens. Like you said, you can't ever have it all at the same time. There are times where so much is needed out of you, like for other areas of your life. And what I've found recently is that I've actually like compromised my working out, and that actually like makes sure that I am very well. So what happens is there's a lot that is happening, and by the time I'm done with everything, I'm like, it's so late, I can't work out.
I can't work out anymore.
But then what I try to do is I try to do like the little things, the walking, but it's actually the heavy lifting and all of that that really like makes me happy. But but
I think you shouldn't. I think that's the one thing I always say to myself, that you don't need to be, if you're in a season where certain things have to be prioritized, you don't need to be hard on yourself.
That is so true.
There is so much power in perspective.
So much power in perspective.
When you start saying to yourself, no, because I haven't worked out today, I have not done well, I haven't worked out today, you know, everybody's posting gym time, and you're like, okay, where am I at? Probably eating, you know, and now you feel you're not doing well in other areas of your life.
I get you. There is so much power in perspective, and I think that's where I'm at, right? But also, when you have worked so hard to get out of a certain habit, like for instance, to get out of a place where I wasn't necessarily that disciplined, you need to watch that you can easily then go tap back into that, because
like 5 steps forward, like 1 step forward, 5 steps back.
Absolutely. So it's very important. Like there's a very thin line.
But you're doing well still, because listen, you are studying as a mother, as a wife. Being a wife is a full-time job as well. I always say that. My husband is like, and my work.
It's a full-time job.
But yeah, it's also a full-time job, because even for him, being a husband is a full-time job. So for you, how are you managing to study, to be a mom? How are you juggling everything? How are you prioritizing what at what point?
You know what? It's a matter of being present where my feet are. So if I am studying right now, nothing else should matter. If I am with my kids, nothing else should matter.
I love that.
Yeah, if I am home and I'm making a meal, I shouldn't be thinking about, oh, I need to. And I mean, it's so easy to think about all the things you need to do. But if I'm not there and I can't be there, it doesn't help like to stress about it.
Yeah.
So I believe in being present where my feet are. It's not easy. Sometimes you find yourself just feeling like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like what's going on with me?
But when we rush through life, we miss like very special moments and very, important moments that you can't really ever go back to. Because one day I was looking at my kid, my youngest, and I was like, it feels like yesterday when I gave birth to this child during the pandemic, and I was just like, I need to get my career going. But now she's like full on talking and all of that. And I'm like...
And it happened just like that?
Yeah, if you don't... Because so much of that time was spent in my head. I was just trying to get back into things. I was trying to do things, you know, because I have goals for myself. I'm 30 this year. I'm going to be 30 soon.
Woohoo.
So it's just like I need to get to a few things before 30, you know? And I mean, I know there's a pressure that comes with 30, but yeah. So now I've learned to like slow down a little bit. Sometimes I catch myself saying, oh no, I can't do that. I'm busy or I need to. And then I'm like, no. These kids are one day not going to be here. I need to like slow down and just, I'm learning now to just like put my phone there and not even worry about it.
Oh, I love that. And I think I'm also like you, where I'm always doing a lot of things at the same time. But one thing that I've learned is to have the order of priority.
Love that.
So even when I set my to-do list, I say this is P1, this is P5. So P5 is normally, okay, if I get to finish this, then I'm going to move to this one.
I love that.
And also, it's okay if I don't get to check off everything on my list, right? Because it's not a definition of success. I just didn't get to it, and it's okay.
I love that.
You know, so I've learned to do that.
I love that kind of grace with self, because essentially what you are doing is also not having, because you know what we do sometimes, we get to have this like toxic relationship with our getting to the goals.
Yes.
You know, you wanna like just push yourself, push, and before you know it, you're actually just like so bent out.
Yeah.
So grace with yourself, as much as it's important to push yourself, I always say, just give yourself grace for the days you're not able to. Because there are days where you're actually able to do like 10 things.
A lot more.
Yeah, 10 things on your to-do list.
And give yourself credit as well for that.
Yeah, and then there are days where you are not able to even do 2. And for me, that has come with motherhood, right? Because before becoming a mother, you feel like, I'm so busy, I don't have time. And then you become a mother, and in my case, I've got 3 kids, and I'm like, wow, I used to think I was tired. I wasn't.
You know what? Your goals right now. This is. I was saying to my mom, because my mom had like all 3 of us at 30.
Oh wow.
So she was saying to me, I want grandkids by the time you're 30. I'm like, Mom, I'm busy. My mom would listen to this and be like, did you see she's turning 30?
And she's gonna do it. Oh my gosh. Sorry, Mom. She's gonna do it when she's ready.
Yeah. So tell me, have you ever practiced as a psychologist?
So what happens in psychology is that you can only practice as a psychologist. So you can only attain the title psychologist when you get your master's.
Sure.
Yeah, it's that hectic.
Did you know that from the beginning?
I knew, and
you still?
Yeah. No, listen, I think I'm called for this.
You are.
Yeah, I love it so much. I love getting to know people, but also I love getting to know where people come from, what shaped who they are, the things they went through in life. So it's been a dream of mine to do that. But I think I've never felt like I needed to rush it, because I knew I was gonna do other things in between now and then. Because also I don't want to practice under someone and then have, because you can like be, what you can do is be like someone's PA, and I mean that is good, but I just never wanted. Yeah. You can work with someone, you can like learn from someone, learn the ropes from someone, but I just also feel like finance-wise, it didn't make sense for me, because you've got kids, you know, and kids are expensive, you know. So I've always felt like I can always tap into the entrepreneurial side of things while I get to my master's.
You mentioned about inspiration. Who inspires you?
The first person that inspires me is my late mom. She was quite a hard worker. Like, you know what? Sometimes I find myself in the middle of the night, like doing stuff, and I'm like, guys, I used to actually think my mom didn't like sleeping. But now that I'm here, you know, when you've got kids and you've got like so much that goes on, you capitalize on the quiet time in the evening. Okay, at least for me, I capitalize on that quiet time. When the house goes quiet, I start to do other things.
A lot of other things. So you're like catching up.
I'm catching up. I used to wake up and I'd be like, doesn't this woman like sleeping? But like now, I just get that it worked best for her. So she was quite a hard worker, and she didn't, ever look down on anything. If it was going to bring in money, she was going for it.
Wow.
My mom left, I think, when we were in high school. My brother was already working, and she was like, I'm going to start a nursing degree. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're going to leave your husband here, your kids? And she's like, guys, you are going to have your lives. You're going to move out of my home. I need to do things that really make me happy. So that's
so good, because they say mothers, when children leave, they have that whole empty nest thing.
Absolutely.
And it can take them into depression.
So true, because you're like, what am I doing with my life? And I think for a little bit, I used to, when my husband and I met, I used to be like, you know, I want to go to school, get these degrees, but just stay home and just take care of you and the kids. And then it happened, and I enjoyed it so much. But for like the last 2-3 years of doing that, I was so unhappy and unfulfilled. And I realized that it was good and well when it was necessary.
Yeah.
But as soon as the kids started to go to school and all of that, I felt like, no, there's more to me. And I think there's more that I'd love to tap into. So I think that about my mom inspired me, because you know, the way, and I mean, at the time, that was like 20 years ago. At the time, people used to be like, you know, your husband is a principal, you don't need to be working. My mom would be selling blankets, like where people get their grant. Literally, and people would be like, but that's such a low thing to do for like your status.
The vision was bigger, hey?
And she was just like, you guys don't even get it. I'm able to make so much more in that place that looks like, and I mean, she was able to make so much more. My dad would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is how much you made in a day.
That's good, because you know, these days we care so much about image. Like if it's not on social media, if people can't see it. Because I was telling someone the other day that there are a lot of successful people that are not even on social media.
Absolutely.
We don't know them.
Absolutely. And I think we need to understand that being seen is not equal to being successful.
Preach.
Because we think when you are everywhere and you are doing this, doing that, that's equal to no. You don't get money into your account every time you are out and about and people see you. And I think one thing about the society that we live in right now is we think that being popular equal to success. And that's why it's so shocking when you see like people that are so popular go broke and
how?
And you're like, what is going on?
Because you're like following equals to bank account millions.
It's not. You know, like most of really the hard work that breeds success is really done privately.
That's
or when it's time to really do the hard work, it's not glamorous, it's not in heels, it's not. I was watching this lady, Gorgeous Mbali, the other day, and she was saying, guys, 30% of the time, I'm a CEO, I'm in my suit and whatever, and I'm looking great. But 70% of the time, I'm shooting content on my stuff and I'm in my PJs and I'm
that's
at
what
home.
makes me money.
And that is what makes the money, not
that's
the
where
dressing
the money
up,
is,
right?
Yeah.
But the misconceptions out there are just, So
the digital space is crazy.
It's very crazy. It requires a lot of discerning because it's so easy to also just like dress up and look successful. But also you need to be able to discern and once in a while ask yourself, in 5 years' time, what I'm doing today, am I going to look back and say, I was actually building towards something? Or was it really just me showing like a mask,
seen.
Of what looks like I'm doing, but I'm not doing? Because, sometimes you look like you're doing something.
Do that.
You look like you're doing stuff, but you're not,
There's no results in the end, and only you know that,
Absolutely.
this I'm doing it for people to think, but some people think fake it till you make it, honey.
I mean, it does work. It does work.
So?
Growing up, my dad used to be like, you need to think you are important. You need to walk like it. You need to breathe like it. You need to like believe it in everything you do. And I think that was his strategy to like getting me to avoid a lot of things. Because he'd be like, your peers are going to be like, let's drink, let's do this, it's cool. But he's like, if you look up to people like Oprah, because that's one of the people I look up to, think about what Oprah would do in that moment. And if you start to carry yourself like that, yes, it's you eventually start to believe it.
The power of the mind.
Yeah, the power of the mind.
Words.
Yeah,
you start
but
speaking it as well.
Yeah, but in the context of like social media, just be careful not to portray what's not there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to, well, that's a topic for another day, but it's hard to like know where to draw the line because again, if you're looking at brands and what they're looking for, sometimes it's who looks like they're doing well because those are the people that are able to pull the crowd. They don't care about your bank account.
I know.
They care about who is able to pull the crowd. But how did you get into content creation?
How did I actually get into content creation? That is a myth. You know what? I think I grew up watching Nontle Tema, and I saw her capitalize on a lot of things, and she was one of the people that I'd look at. She was on, I think, on O Access at the time.
Okay.
And I was just like, I love that, you know? I love that. And so when I got exposed to content creators, I think I think about 7, 8, 9 years ago. And the first few people I saw were yours and Yokopano. I was like, okay, I like this. I like what they're doing. And I think, you know, I can see myself do this. So what I did was I just went and did like a whole lot of research. But then I started the fake it until you make it thing. So I started literally like shooting content, and my husband didn't get it at the time. He was just like,
what are we doing here?
Why are you spending an hour like conceptualizing pictures and doing that? So I just started posting stuff. Although I remember I actually went as far as getting into one of Kopano's programs where she was just sharing how to become a creator, the things you need to look at, because I was really serious about it. I wanted to get into it. But for the longest times, it wasn't working out because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to bring myself on social media. So I wanted the pecs of it, but I
didn't
kept
want
that
to do what needs to be done to get there.
I wanted to keep the introvert, like the intro. I wanted to come out, but I still be like that introvert that keeps everything in. But you know, people connect to your story. And I remember for the longest time I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do makeup and be a beauty creator. But I felt like it wasn't working. And only when I was okay with sharing my journey as a mom, then did I start to see like some progress.
I love that.
Yeah, so I started to share honestly. And how it happened actually, when I had my first child, I was still very new on social media, didn't really share a lot. I was struggling in private. And at the time, there weren't a lot of mom creators. But I remember bumping into Modern Zulu Mom's blog, and I'd read a lot there. But like with time, I was like, I love what she's doing because she's so vulnerable. But obviously, being vulnerable on social media is a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it takes a lot as well.
Very difficult. But when I had my second child, I wasn't struggling as much as I did with my first, because with my first I ended up with postpartum depression, and my husband didn't even know. Nobody. We had a house full of people that were helping with the baby, helping with everything, but I just never cared to share that I think I'm really struggling. And I went through it for months by myself. But because I was studying psychology, that also helped. I started to like notice a lot of things, and I started to read about it. So with my second child, as I was posting my snapback pictures, a lot of moms were going, oh my gosh, you look like you're doing great. You're enjoying this. How are you
How
a
did
mom
you
of
get
2?
there? Yeah.
And you're not even struggling. And one day I sat down and I was like, I could just go with this whole hype and be posting like sexy pictures with my stroller and all of that, but what good is going to come out of it? I was like,
how are you impacting the other person?
Absolutely, because the last thing I wanted was for a mom who was struggling like I was with my first to see that and go,
what is wrong with me?
I'm not meant for this, you know?
Yeah.
And then one day I was just like, you know what, I'm going to share my story, and if, I don't know, if something bad happens, it's fine. And then my my baby's pediatrician at the 6 weeks appointment, because I was in heels already.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, I was that girl. Like even at 40 weeks pregnant, I would be in heels.
I am doing
Yeah,
this.
I got there and she's like, you seem like you're doing much better this time around.
Than the
and
first
I was like,
one,
yeah, I am. I'm not gonna lie. And I think the thing was, I knew what to expect with my second child. And she's like, you know what? I think you should think about something like that, because there isn't really like a specialist for moms, but mothers go through a lot, because it's a huge transition.
Yeah.
From just being yourself to now you need to check if this person is
And
breathing
take care
every.
of, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's true.
I looked at that conversation really made me feel like, okay, I can capitalize on this. And I remember then having a strategy meeting with a social media coach, Millennial Mommy, and I spoke to her, but I was still not convinced that it's going to work, because at the time there weren't really much mental health mommy bloggers out there. And she said to me, listen, there's so many beauty creators. You can do it in this niche, but I feel like if you really just went with mental health, it's going to work. And I was like, I think people are going to be bored. I don't think people are going to listen. Yeah.
Because it wasn't big at that time.
It wasn't big. I don't think there was anyone who was talking about like the realities of
what it really
is. And I just started sharing, and I remember at some point moms just started saying, listen, I'm struggling. And
you're like, there's actually a lot of people.
Yeah. So along the way I was like, let's have live videos every week. Let's have a new mom every week. Share the realities of, you know, their motherhood journey. And then I started sharing on my, I had a blog, and then before I knew it, it was a YouTube video, a YouTube channel, and now a podcast.
I love that, you know, because that's one thing this podcast actually believes in, that our stories and our journeys are actually what makes us unique. And sometimes when we are trying to be somebody who we are not, that's where we don't see ourselves moving. Like we don't impact anyone, because God placed that particular situation, that experience in your life, so that you can actually do something about it.
That is so
true. It's not just for you to go through pain or to go through hurt, but God wants to use you and impact other people that are going through the same thing. Which reminds me of a podcast episode I did the other time, where I was saying one of the reasons we go through pain is so that we are more empathetic and sympathetic people. So once you go through the same thing, if you never went through that, you'd have not said, okay, let me start this, because you feel, I mean, I had a great journey. Why should I talk about someone going through this? But because you went through it, you know what you needed that you probably didn't have.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
So with your postpartum journey, how was it? Like, how did anyone help you? Did your husband, because you said your husband didn't understand what it was, right?
Listen, I didn't even open up to anyone. So what happened was, one of the things I'm unlearning now, which was a toxic trait, was just getting to fix it, just getting to do it by myself. So I'm like the only girl child at home. And when you grow up and you feel like you're growing up alone, literally, my thing or defense mechanism was just always, I'll get it done by myself. Yeah, because you grow up with brothers and they don't get a lot of things, whether it's periods, this, that, you can't even talk to them about a lot of things. So I went through it by myself, but when I got through it, I was like, I wouldn't want another mother to go through this.
Sure.
And I mean, that involved so much like imposter syndrome. I felt like I wasn't made for this. I remember one day looking at this baby and thinking, I love this little person so much. I wanna be there for them, care for them. But I feel like there's not that
connection.
Yeah, there's something missing, you know, and I couldn't tell what it was. But also I was also grieving because I lost my mom, like, I think when I was around 3 months pregnant. So then I'm a newlywed, then there's a baby. Sure. I've just moved in with my husband. Like there was so
and you're
much.
young as well.
I was so young. I was 22. So at the time, I'm like, there was so much happening that I just felt like, I don't even know if the postpartum depression was because I had already been going through so much. But I needed to, one day I walked past the mirror, looked at myself, and I was like, I don't like what I'm seeing.
Who is this?
Who is this person? Had become so insecure even in my marriage. I was just feeling like, that was bad. That was bad. I was just in such a bad place. And I remember the following day just asking my sister-in-law to be with the baby, and I was like, I'm gonna go to Clicks. And she was so shocked because for the longest time I had never left the baby's side, you know. And I went to Clicks, got there, bought eyeliner and bought a few things, and I was like, I'm gonna learn to take care of myself, because I think along the way I had also like just neglected myself so much. Because as a new mom, it's so hard to even bath. Like, it's so hard. Bath time becomes 2 minutes.
Like, you have to.
You get in the bath and the baby starts crying, and everybody's like, the baby is crying, and that creates so much anxiety. You're just like, but I'm trying to. So you can't even bath. Like, literally, sometimes you have to feed the baby mid-bath. So even like just doing the little things for myself. And that's why now one of my biggest things when moms are struggling, I'm like, listen, do one thing for yourself. And sometimes on some days, the one thing you're gonna do for yourself is brushing your teeth and brushing your hair. That's how hectic it gets.
You're making us scared.
No, I don't want you to be scared. You know what would be worse?
Yeah.
The thing is, we go through things differently. I was dealing with a lot.
Good, yeah.
But the reality of having a newborn baby is that you can have so much help, but because you also want to do so much and you're learning and it's not easy, the baby is not necessarily like sleeping well. Like so much of that first few months is it's chaotic, and you literally need to live within the chaos. So when at the time I was a person that believed in perfectionism, so I needed to unlearn a lot.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I always say, I'm not sharing the things that I'm sharing so that you can be scared. You'd rather go into it very informed, so that when it happens, you're like, oh, here it goes. Okay.
And I think when we're prepared, we handle things differently than when it's
Absolutely.
happening for the first time. And then you're saying, what is all this? And you start thinking you're different and all that.
Yeah, and you start doubting yourself. Because now my kids will cough and I'll look at it and I'll give it a few days before I rush. The first time around, literally when the kids start like coughing, I'm taking them to the doctor. So the good thing about going through the hard things and seeing them is that along the way you're like, oh no, I know that. It's fine, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Yeah.
So tell me, how do you think being a mother changed your perspective of life and how you show up every morning?
I mean, I think it did. I think it did. I think I was cruising. I was just chilled. I was not worried about a lot of things. I didn't feel like I had I had dreams of my own, right? But I felt like I didn't need to rush anyway. And I wasn't necessarily as disciplined as a person, just as an individual as I would have liked to be. And I couldn't care. I mean, my mom used to be like, are you ever going to be able to handle a lot of stuff in life? But also my parents were very affirming, but I think she saw just how chilled I was. I was the baby, I was the only girl at home. I'd just take my laundry and go home and my mom would do it.
Ooh.
That's how chilled I was about life. But once I became a mother, I realized that time is very important. So you need to you can't just be chilling through life. It's okay to have relaxed time, but you also need to have a structure. You need to know where you're going, how you're getting there. Because when you have kids, you're not gonna pay with goals in your mind, like the school fees.
That's true. There has to be something tangible.
Yes. So I think having kids just made me realize that you need to get moving.
Sure.
Yeah, and it also just in a certain area of my life, I think I was not very cognizant of who I was as a person. Spending so much time caring for my kids, caring for my husband, for my household, just also made me realize that I needed to make time for myself.
Your identity totally shifted to motherhood.
Yes.
You lost yourself.
It did. And so I needed to literally find a way to come back home to myself. And I think now I know myself better and I'm very aware of who I am, who I'm not, what I should and what I shouldn't be doing.
So do you feel there's certain things as a mother and even as a content creator as well that like that you do that go unnoticed? Because I feel it's the mantra of motherhood, you know, like cleaning the boogers and no one says thank you.
I know.
You know, and like you're saying, your mom, because I also was in that same state where my mom packed my lunch boxes.
Yeah.
Even at the time when I was going to work, I tell you, like, all my lunch bags will be done by my mom, you know, and I don't think I would appreciate it, but I never say thank you enough.
And then you move out of home.
Yeah, and
you do it yourself.
No, like real life. So do you ever feel there's certain things, like it being it, like clothes that are left on top of the washing basket, the laundry basket, and not in the laundry basket, just a lot of things that you do, and how do you deal with it?
I think I think definitely there are those, because now, like I said, even the staying up thing at night, because there are nights where you wanna like just go to bed early, but you need to prepare. If you don't prepare, your whole day is gonna be disorganized tomorrow because of like things that you could have finished yesterday. So I think there is a lot that goes unnoticed. But what I've learned to do is, instead of expecting other people to see it, I actually give myself my own flowers.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, okay, you know what, you did this, so proud of you. Like I give
Validate
myself
yourself.
before I expect other people to give it to me. And I mean, if I think it's important, I'm just gonna know that listen, I think you guys don't realize how this takes so much time to do or prepare. Because even with kids, sometimes you prepare this dinner and you think, oh my God, and my kids are just like, oh, but I mean, the other day's dinner was just nice.
It was nicer.
You know,
it like you didn't put in effort.
So yeah, I do think there's a lot that goes unnoticed, but I think it becomes, you build resentment when you wait for other people to give you
affirm you.
Yeah, to affirm you, you know. So when you affirm yourself and you like, also, as much as you do certain things for people, make time to pour into yourself. Because when you pour into yourself, you're not gonna be yelling, I do everything for you guys and you don't know
this.
Yes. When you pour into yourself, you're gonna be able to say, no, but I also take time out. Like there are days where I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, I can't show up today. Toodles.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You are there. You've reached.
I've reached that point where I'm like, listen, I love you so much, but can you please, and I mean, this used to be so hard. Can you believe that it actually took me 6 or almost 7 years of being a mom to learn to just leave my kids with other people and just like go be by myself.
Yeah.
So
it was
now,
about time.
so now I'm like, I will leave my kids with my mom-in-law, and
I will be at peace.
I'm not even gonna feel any form of mom guilt, because when I come back, I need to be present and
fully
enjoy
present,
playing games and, you know, chasing animals and all of that stuff. Yeah.
I love that. But what did marriage do to your identity as a woman? I'm asking because for me, I had a lot of expectations of myself. You know, because society says, and where I come from, like in Zambia, there's a lot of cultural beliefs, right? A woman does this, that, and I think it's similar to SA as well. So I had all those expectations of myself. You know, when my husband is going to work, I have to put a lunch bag. You know, dinner, I have to serve dinner. I have to do all this. And I think my husband would tell me a lot of times that, baby, you don't have to do all this. But I still felt that is what a wife is. That's where my identity is. Until I got to a point where I say to myself, listen, you have to have a sense of individualization. You know, a partnership in marriage doesn't mean a loss of individualization. Until I got to the point, I say to myself, it's okay sometimes to say, today I can't make dinner, can we just buy? You know, it's okay for me to not be able to pack a lunch bag. So what do you think for you, how did it affect your identity? Considering you also got married
very young. You know what? It's funny because I think the word I'd use is initially humbling. Yeah, because growing up, right, I was that girl that even at the age of 13, 14, I was dating to get married. So I was big on, I want to save myself for marriage. I want to, you know, like all of those.
We're so similar,
Yes. So I was big on, I want to get that guy. Let's get married. Let's build a family, because I've got big dreams and I want to focus on those. And I don't want to be worrying about Njolo, this and that. I want to at least have stability in that area of my life. So when it happened, right, and I got into it, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I said, I told my husband, I want to go study, but then I want to come back and just be a wife and cater to you and the kids. And one of the biggest things I've learned through my years of being with him, we've been together I think for 11 years and I think married 9, and I got to learn that it's okay to actually change my mind about what I thought marriage should be and who I thought I would be in marriage. Because the problem is what I came with into marriage were really like dreams.
Like some of them are literally dreams.
Yes. You know, I had dreams and I think that is okay because then you allow yourself to step up, right? But I needed to understand that, you know, as much as I love my kids, I love my family, there are days where I'm not going to be able to do certain things. And as much as I thought I'd love being a housewife so much, I did it and I got to a point where it was not fulfilling me. So I learned that it's not what it's necessarily sold as. And I mustn't pressure myself to be, you know, perfect and be the perfect wife, you know, always, you know, have a plate or in my hands as soon as my husband walks through. Reality and, you know, what I had in mind
we have
are two different things.
That's true.
Because what happens is then when you focus on that and you want to do that and that must be your whole life, you expect the next person to stop their whole lives and they must focus on being this, you know, Prince Charming, you know, perfect husband 24 hours. And one of the expectations I had was that my husband had to make me happy. And I learned that the hard way, that it's
and it gets painful.
It's such an unrealistic
like, did you not hear me? I married you and I thought you would make me happy.
It's such an unrealistic expectation.
Like putting such a burden on someone.
It's a burden. It's never going to work. It's going to cause problems because he does not need to make you happy. You are going to need to go out there, figure who you are, figure what fulfills you in life, what makes you happy, what fills you up, still have a sense of who you are outside of him. Because the biggest thing that I did when I got into my marriage, I think I had a sense of like controlling. You know,
you want to have control.
I wanted to control because I felt like we need to make this work. You know?
Yeah, and it has to work this way.
It has to work this way, and I think there were times where the controlling and all of that made me feel like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work out, like I can't even afford it not working out. So you get more and more controlling. You want things to go a certain way. But this is reality. You know, you can't orchestrate every minute of every day. And when one day we had a conversation, I sat down and I realized I'm going through a lot. It was around the postpartum depression time, and I was just like, I think the biggest thing was I was looking to my husband, this marriage and the child to make me happy. But the thing is, the transitions that happen within marriage on its own, from a relationship to a marriage, there's so many people coming in, so many dynamics. Sometimes people look at a bride and she's not smiling, and people are like, why is she not smiling? She's literally getting, you know, the wedding of her dreams. But there's so many dynamics that we don't see. Right? There's been a tiff with a mother-in-law or a sister-in-law. So much comes into play that when that perfect moment that you've been waiting for happens, there's so much that happening that sometimes you don't even see yourself walk through the doors you've prayed to walk through.
That's true.
You know, so I needed to learn that this man is not going to make me happy, but also a happy and healthy marriage is going to be a place where I'm gonna be able to be okay with him waking up one day. God forbid that, but if he wakes up and feels like he is not happy here, I need to be okay with him walking away.
Sure.
But that means my identity can be tied to who he is.
That's true.
Because if my identity is tied to who he is, I'm not going to be okay with him. So literally, I had to come back from being my husband, that girl, to who am I outside of my kids, outside of my marriage?
Husband,
you know, who am I? What do I like? It shouldn't be, everything I do shouldn't necessarily be informed
tailored
by,
around
my family. And when I have that, I'm able to really pour into my family in such a beautiful way.
Because you're fulfilled.
So fulfilled. I don't want to lie.
That's true. And I think it's not to take away the fact that you need to spend time with family, which is what we were talking about earlier. Like, we need to also do things we love, our hobbies, our hustle. And we're not saying that, you know, you've got family, you've got your hustle. And I always say to people that use an analogy of a rubber cup and a glass cup, right? So if your family is basically the glass cup.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you do not spend time, if you focus so much on your hustle and everything, then once they're broken, you can't bring them back.
No, you can't.
You know? But with your hustle and everything else, it's like a rubber cup. If it's going to fall, you will find another one. You know, you can always make money by other means. So I love what you're saying.
I agree. And you know what? I love the fact that you've put that disclaimer out there, because listen, when I was not fulfilled as an individual, I would want to spend so much time with my family, but it was time that was not, most of the time I was complaining. I was not necessarily being like, my energy was negative.
True.
So now, when I get to spend time with my family, I'm coming as a full cup. I'm fulfilled.
You're not pouring from an empty cup.
So I get to then enjoy the time that I'm spending with them, and I'm loving it, and I'm pouring into them without feeling like, I'm not doing anything for myself. So essentially, pouring into yourself is, I always say, it's the most selfless thing you can do, because then the people that are going to experience you get to experience a full blossoming version of you.
I love
instead
that.
of, I'm here, I'm sacrificing everything, I've done
good,
that, sacrificing everything, but I'm always unhappy. The moment my husband gets here, in 2 minutes, he's unhappy because I've said, I've cleaned your shoes, and you don't even see
the kitchen is clean.
Do you get what I'm saying? So now, the time that I get to be a family woman, I'm there and I'm present and I'm very fulfilled.
Yeah, that's true. But before, I can't let you go without asking you anything about mental health. So you have a son, a cute one for that.
Thank you.
So how are you raising your son to be a man who is vulnerable, who is able to show emotion, but not only show emotion, but be able to receive it as well? Because obviously we've seen in the world there's a lot of men that are emotionally absent. So how are you raising him to be that man?
That's actually a topic that's very close to my heart. And we're doing something this year around on Men's Health Month. We're doing something for the men finally.
Yay.
So I believe that so much of from the violence, the gender-based violence, so much that is happening has to do with how our boys are socialized. Because from a very young age, you want to tell boys that you're a man, you can't cry, you know, you know, the saying that says, you know, a man mustn't cry, and all of that. And what we do with that is we disregard boys' emotions. And we teach them that emotions don't matter.
So they internalize.
So as a young boy, they feel like their emotions are neglected. They're not necessarily cared for emotionally. But what they learn to do then is to learn to just keep it moving and just do life without ever stopping and just taking, you know, stock of how they are doing. But we are teaching girls that, you know, it's important to, you know, check how you're doing. We're having women empowerment events, and we are equipping women with a lot of information.
True.
And when they go home, right, the same boys get to marry the women that are equipped, that are told to, like,
that are in touch with emotions.
Be in touch with their emotions. And what happens is that they find men that are really like, just, they could not care about
they don't know how to
you feel
respond to emotion.
And that is because they have been socialized to think that, listen, emotions are not going to buy you bread. Have you heard how a lot of men are like, no, crying is not going to,
I have to get up and continue.
They want to continue. But what we are doing in our household, we literally stop and say, how are you feeling, my boy? If he falls, he's going to need to cry. It's okay.
It's
you know?
fine, yeah.
Yeah, and we are not necessarily raising them differently. So my boy child is allowed to cry. And if I hear someone go, oh, you're a boy, you know, I literally I will literally shut you up immediately, because then men are struggling. Men don't even think going to therapy is a real thing. Because
they don't.
Why am I going to pay to listen to? They'll tell me. Why am I paying someone to listen to listen to my problems and stuff?
Yeah.
But that's because we've never made it a point to make them realize that their emotions matter. And if they don't think their emotions matter, they're gonna think your emotions don't matter
as well.
So here you are in a marriage with a man that doesn't know how to communicate his feelings.
Sure.
And you are trying to communicate your feelings, and you are just feeling disregarded all the time. But it's because his whole life, nobody ever stopped and really just checked on him. Nobody ever stopped and told him that it actually matters that you're feeling sad, and it's
and
okay.
you express it.
And you express it. So now we are really like a generation that is going through a lot, because our women are a different breed. And I mean the divorce
the
rates are really a reflection of what is going on.
A lot of self-actualization, individualization, I think it's really creeping into marriages.
It's creeping into marriages because you come as a woman and you're like, no, we need to communicate, we need to, and he's like, no, I've bought you bread, I've bought groceries, I've given you money, what do we need to talk about? And you're like, no, I need quality time with you, I need you to tell me how you're feeling. And he's like, that doesn't matter, I need to go work for this household. So at the end of the day, you feel like I'm in an unfulfilled marriage. I don't feel like we connect. I don't feel like... But the thing is, the root of the matter is that we also give men this responsibility that they must take, you know, they must put the world on their shoulders and their head, and they must solve everything.
Provider.
No. It's actually okay for a man and a husband to say, my love, I really don't have a plan. How many women
what should we do? How do we navigate around it?
Actually, men feel a pressure to actually be like, yeah, this is how we're gonna do that.
To pretend.
They feel like they need to always have a solution.
Yeah,
but they're human.
That's true.
And we are all adulting for the first time. So it needs to be okay for a man to not know what to do, and we need to embrace that. So really, my husband laughs, and he's like, your son is gonna be like, Mama. And I really let him be that, because then he's in touch with his feelings.
And he will know how to respond to his wife's feelings as well, because he knows what it means to be heard, to be understood, and to express yourself.
Absolutely. So it's very important that we don't dismiss men, and we actually don't promote things that are going to end up just building up resentment in men. And then the next time, a woman says something, and like, I mean, even with gender-based violence, right? Because with upbringing, it's so important. I feel like I'm getting out of topic a little bit, but we can't raise kids, hit them, and think that it's okay to hit kids at a young age, and think that they're gonna unlearn that when they get older. Do you get what I'm saying? So even with men, right? Because what happens, like with gender-based violence, men were not taught to really speak.
No.
I'm not making excuses for them, but the thing is, when they burst, and one day they burst, and they feel like, oh my gosh,
they have to take it out somehow.
It comes down crumbling, and what happens? Rage. And then what follows? So when we are able to say to men, you can talk, you can go to therapy, it's not a stupid thing, nobody's going to laugh at you for going to therapy, then we are able to have a better society.
I love that. That's so true.
Yeah.
So filled with wisdom. So lastly, I always ask all my guests first, are you living your purpose? Do you think you're living your purpose? And what does that look like for you?
I've been reading a lot about purpose lately, and I think it's not necessarily one thing. I think different seasons of my life and different things that are required of me are a whole journey that makes up the purpose of my life and my being here. So in different seasons, my purpose may be different things. Do you get what I'm saying? But I do think I am living my purpose. Okay. I think that with what I'm trusted with right now, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that, you know, I am doing what I need to be doing right now.
You are.
Yeah.
I even feel like it was a rhetoric question, but you are. And on that note, I think generally purpose does give us a sense of direction, a sense of, you know, we're more motivated to pursue whatever it is that's on our heart. So I think it's good to always have a sense of direction or know where you're going. I think it's a sense of fulfillment, and it just helps you to align with your dreams.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, the thing is, I think with so much information about purpose, right? It doesn't need to be one thing. It can look like different things in different seasons.
Yes.
You know?
It's with one person.
It's with one person. The thing is, there is an evolution going on within you and within your life, but also it's bleeding out to so many things and so many other people's lives. So in one season of my life, purpose looked like, you know, serving my family, being there for my kids 24/7. And right now, purpose looks like showing up for other women and doing things that are going to help other people.
I love that.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. This was an amazing episode. Thank you so much, Boledi.
Thank you.
Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please, in the comment section, do state what you've learned and subscribe because it helps us to reach a wider audience. Thank you so much. Until next time.